$2,000 a week for a company driver, is that good money? Do I really need to make this video? There are going to be people out there that's probably going to say $2,000 a week, that's not any money in New York. That's not a lot of money in California. I get it. The cost of living is high in certain locations. I understand that. $2,000 a week, that's $104,000 a year. And I'm not trying to make it seem like that's a ton of money, because in the grand scheme of things, it's really not a lot of money, especially today, right? However, as a company driver in the trucking industry, if you making $2,000 a week gross, we talking gross, because everybody has something different coming out in net. So I rarely talk about net numbers. Some people got child support. Some people have all these different exemptions coming out and things of that nature. So if you making $2,000 a week, you're probably netting on average, just say $1,300, $1,400. I just made, let me see, $2,088. My net was $1,487, right? And that's probably a little, high for a lot of people. Some people probably got a lot more taxes coming out in it, and some other deductions. I don't have to pay insurance anymore, so I don't have those deductions coming out of my paycheck. I'm on my wife's insurance, so I'm saving money there. I don't pay any child support anymore. My daughter's grown now, so I don't have those deductions. So that's nice. So, everybody has different benefits and, deductions and all these things coming out of the paycheck. So the amount will vary at the end of the day. But for most of us, $2,000 a week is pretty good money. If you know what you're doing with your money, if you're investing, if you living within your means, not spending crazy amounts of money on things that you really don't need, you good at managing your money, you have some sort of a budget. I don't believe in just being like strict to the point to where, you counting every dime. I don't think, you have to live that way. But at the same time, I think it's a good idea to at least have some type of financial plan in place, to where at least you know where most of your money is going, if not all of it. If you're making over $100,000 a year, where in the United States, only 18% of Americans are making more than $100,000 a year, to me, that speaks volumes within itself, because 18% is not a lot of people when you look at how many people are in the United States. So if you fall within that threshold, in my opinion, I think you're doing pretty good. And look, let's be honest, guys, at the end of the day, we all want to make as much money as possible in the trucking industry. We know owner operators tend to make more than company drivers. For the most part, there are some company drivers that make more than owner operators when you subtract all the expenses and things of that nature. But if a owner operator is running his business properly, they should be making more than company drivers. That's the whole goal for a lot of company drivers and people getting into trucking. A lot of guys and gals have aspirations to be an owner operator, because they're looking at, that gross number. You see that 200, some making $300,000 a year if they're really producing. But in this market, I'm not sure if, they're making that amount of money right now. But many people get into trucking that someday they want to be an owner operator to make that type of money. And I do think, it's definitely possible. I do believe there are people that are making, that amount of money. But at the end of the day, you also see a lot of people that were owner operators that said, you know what, when I break it all down and I look at my expenses, I could have stayed a company driver and made just as much, right? So I think it depends on the person when it comes to owner operator. And I don't want to change the subject because we're talking about, whether or not $2,000 a week is good money for a company driver. But as an owner operator, you should, or at least you have the potential to make more than a company driver. You should be making more than a company driver as an owner operator. If you're not, then you may have to, reevaluate what you got going on in your business. Again, I think if you ask most company drivers on whether or not $2,000 a week is good money in trucking, as a company driver, I think that they would agree and say, yeah, that's pretty good. Now, some of them may give you a little pushback and say, well, it depends on what you're doing in trucking. Like, for example, if you're doing food service and you're making $2,000 a week in food service, some people might argue and say, well, if you're only making $2,000 a week in food service, you're not getting paid enough. You should be making more money. And I'm not going to disagree with that. You may have an argument there. But with that said, yet and still, if you're making $2,000 a week, even in food service, despite the amount of work you're doing, I still think you're doing pretty decent, man. You're doing pretty decent. You're in that 18%. Remember, only 18% of Americans in the United States are making above $100,000 a year. Think about that. Six figures is always the magic number, it seems like. But I mean, look, you could be making $90,000 a year. You could be making $80,000 a year and still be doing pretty good for yourself in terms of the way you're living, right? Still being able to provide for your family, still being able to afford the necessities that you need to survive, and some of the wants, right? Some of the toys that you may like, whether it's a car, whether it's a motorcycle, whatever it is, a boat, right? It may not be a huge boat, buying a house, all those sorts of things, man, you still should be able to do if you're making that type of money. So, it's all about how you manage your money as well, man. Taking care of your debts, not accumulating a lot of debts, investing. Like I preach on this channel a lot. I talk about investing a lot because it doesn't matter how much money you make. It's all about how much money you keep. And then when I say keep, I'm not talking about just putting all your money in a savings account. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about putting your money to work and investing that money to make you more money. Investing in assets that have the potential to appreciate and bring you more money. That's what I'm talking about. All right. So I just want to be clear on that. Again, man, if you're making $2,000 a week, you're doing pretty good. If you're making $1,900 a week, $1,800, I still think you're doing pretty good. And, depending on how much debt you have and how good you are with managing your finances, that amount of money can do some pretty good things for you. Now, I'm not saying be, content or complacent with making that amount of money. Work hard to try to make as much money as you want to make. Whatever that number is for you, whatever that number is that make you feel comfortable from a financial standpoint, then continue to grind, continue to work hard and make that money. Listen, money isn't everything. So sometimes we really got to take a step back and realize what's really important in our lives. And oftentimes it's those things that money really can't buy, like spending time with your loved ones, being there for your kids' games, spending time with your significant other, right? All these things are priceless. So you want to be able to do those things. Again, $104,000 a year gross. That's pretty good in my book. Y'all let me know what you think. Drop it in the comments. Until the next video, I catch you guys on the next one, man. Y'all take care. Peace.